So the film begins, and we see a girl named Annie who is running away from something, but we are not shown that thing behind her. She is extremely frightened. Now she gets into a car and drives away from there. Again and again, she keeps turning back to look behind, as if trying to see whether that thing is still following her or not. Evening slowly turns into night, and the frightened Annie comes and sits on a beach. At this moment, Annie is crying, and from her behavior it is clearly visible that she is very scared. She calls her mom and dad and tells them, "Mom, Dad, I love you very much. If I have ever hurt you, then please forgive me." After saying this, she ends the phone call. After that, in the next scene, we are shown her dead body. She did not commit suicide on this beach. By looking at her dead body, it is clearly visible that someone has murdered her. After this, the scene cuts, and we are shown Jay and her friends. Today, they are very excited because finally, Jay has decided to get married, and that is why she is going to meet a boy. This is the first time that both of them are meeting. She is expecting that the boy will say nice things to her. But that boy is very strange. Again and again, he keeps asking Jay the same question. "Do you see a girl standing behind me who is staring at me?" Jay turns around to look behind as he says, but there is no one there. Because of this, Jay feels that surely the mental condition of this boy is not right. Anyway, the boy suddenly takes Jay away from the movie theater and leaves from there. Jay asks him many times, "Do you have some problem? Are you trying to escape from someone?" But the boy does not give her any answer. Even after all this, Jay meets that boy again because he asks her to. This time, both of them go to the beach. The boy talks a lot with Jay, and after that he sweet-talks her and comes close to her inside the car. Then the scene cuts from there, and in the next scene we see that Jay has been kidnapped. She is tied up inside a deserted building. When she regains consciousness, she becomes very worried because she sees that the person who kidnapped her is none other than the same boy. Jay becomes extremely disturbed and asks him, "Why are you doing this? Do you want to kill me? Whatever money you want, I will give you. Take it from me. But please, just let me go this time." But the boy says that he does not need money. He says that he kidnapped her to warn her. He tells her that if he had told her everything earlier, then she would not have believed him. Jay asks him what kind of thing it is that he had to kidnap her just to explain it. Then the boy tells her that for many days he has been seeing an entity. He has been seeing it ever since he came close to an unknown girl. That entity keeps following him all the time. It scares him and even tries to kill him. Later, he found out that the entity is actually like a curse or a debt that he received after getting close to that girl. And now he has passed that same curse on to Jay by getting close to her. Now that entity will appear to Jay instead of him. It will try to kill her, and if it succeeds in killing her, then it will start following him again. He warns Jay to try not to die. He also tells her not to go to places where there are 2 exits or 2 ways to leave, because in such places the entity reaches very quickly and often succeeds in attacking. He also tells her that if she gets tired of the entity and wants to get rid of it, then just like him, she can pass this curse to someone else. At first, Jay thinks that all of this is a strange joke, but soon she actually sees that entity on the building. It appears in the form of a horrifying person. Now she becomes extremely scared. After that, the boy throws her outside her house and leaves. Because she had not come home for a long time, her friends had already filed a complaint with the police. When she returns in that condition, everyone becomes very worried. The police question her and Jay tells them about the boy who kidnapped her. The police start their investigation, but they do not find any boy with the name Jay mentioned. Later, through CT footage, they somehow see the face of that boy and find out that the name he told Jay was actually fake. He had changed his name with a plan so that Jay would never be able to contact him again. Many days pass after this incident. During this time, Jay stays with her friends and she does not see that entity. Slowly, Jay starts her normal routine life again. One day, when she is sitting in college and everyone's attention is on the lecture, she suddenly sees an old woman walking toward her from outside the college window. Jay becomes extremely scared because she realizes that this is the same entity that is following her because of the curse. She panics and immediately runs to her friends and tells them everything. One of Jay's friends somewhat believes her, but Paul does not. However, Jay is very scared, and because of that, they cannot take any risk. Paul decides that he will stay at Jay's house that night. For a long time, everything seems fine. But suddenly at night, strange noises start coming from inside their house, as if someone is inside. Paul goes to check the sound while Jay is sitting in the lounge. At that moment, she sees a wet girl walking toward her from a distance. Jay immediately realizes that it is the same entity that has been appearing to her in different forms. This time it looks like a beautiful girl, but the way it walks is still terrifying. Jay becomes very scared and starts screaming. She runs away from there. While running up the stairs, her steps start trembling, and she stumbles several times while dropping things around. Somehow, she reaches upstairs. Hearing her screams, Paul and her sister come to her room. They stand inside the room against a wall. Jay is still screaming loudly. Paul and her sister cannot see anyone, but Jay can clearly see the entity. The entity has changed its form again, and now it appears as a very tall man standing behind them. It is slowly coming closer to Jay. Jay becomes extremely terrified. She jumps out of the room window and quickly grabs a bicycle and rides away from there to save herself from the entity. After running away, Jay goes to a park and sits there lost in her thoughts. She now realizes that everything the boy told her earlier was actually true. While she is sitting there, frightened, she suddenly hears someone behind her. When she turns back, she sees that it is her friends and her sister who came looking for her. She quickly goes toward them and tries to explain everything again. Earlier, Paul and the others did not believe her, but now, after seeing her condition, they start believing her. While they are talking, Jay suddenly freezes because she sees someone approaching from the front. She thinks that the entity has come again in the form of a boy. But this time, that boy is visible to everyone. That means it is not the entity. In reality, he is Jay's neighbor. He is also her classmate, and he had been noticing for a long time that Jay looked frightened and panicked both at home and in class. He asks them about their problem and offers to help them. Jay and her friends explain everything to him. The neighbor suggests that to understand the curse, they should go to the house of the boy from whom all of this started. They follow his suggestion and go to that boy's house. But they find out that he has already moved away from there. They search his house and find only a photograph which helps them find out the name of his school. After that, they go to the school and manage to get information about him and finally reach him. The boy sits with them and cooperates. He tells them that everything started when he met a girl. After that, the entity started following him. Because of the fear of the entity, his entire life was ruined. He lost his peace, his job, and everything else. At first, he had decided that he would not harm anyone else by passing the curse to them, but eventually he became so desperate that he had to do it. That is why he planned everything and met Jay. He tells them that if Jay also wants to get rid of the curse, then she will have to pass it to someone else. Jay and her friends return home confused about what they should do next. To improve Jay's mood, they take her to the beach. While sitting there, they decide that they will involve the police or maybe some spiritual expert to find a solution. But while they are talking, Jay suddenly sees the entity again. This time, it appears in the form of a beautiful girl. Before Jay can react, the entity grabs her hair and lifts her up. Jay's friends notice that her hair is being pulled upward. Paul realizes that if the entity's hand is holding her hair up, then it must be standing there, even though he cannot see it. So he throws a chair in that direction. This angers the entity, and it lifts Paul and throws him far away into the water. Everyone becomes terrified. Because of throwing Paul away, the entity lets go of Jay for a moment. Taking advantage of this, they all run into a nearby room and lock themselves inside. But someone starts breaking the door. When they look outside, they see their neighbor telling them that there is nobody outside. But before they can open the door, that boy suddenly transforms into a small child. This reveals that he is actually the entity itself. The child rushes toward them to attack. They quickly open the door and run away. Jay, who is the most frightened, immediately gets into the car and starts driving. Her friends try to stop her, but she is too panicked to listen. Meanwhile, the entity is shown slowly walking behind them. Here we learn one weakness of the entity. It cannot run and can only walk slowly. That is why it always reaches its victim later. But Jay is so frightened that she loses focus on driving. Her car almost crashes into another vehicle. She turns the car suddenly to avoid it, and the car crashes into a field. After that, we see Jay admitted in the hospital. Jay is still very disturbed in the hospital. Her neighbor cannot bear to see her in that condition and tells her that he wants to help her. He asks her to pass the curse on to him. Jay, who is tired of everything, agrees at first. But after she passes the curse on to him by getting close to him, she starts regretting it because she feels she has put someone else's life in danger. However, the boy assures her that nothing will happen to him. Because of his honesty, Jay begins to like him. After a few days, Jay asks him if he has seen the entity. He replies that he has not seen it yet. Eventually, Jay's treatment is completed, and she returns home. One day, she is sitting near the window, looking at her neighbor's house and thinking about everything that happened. Suddenly, she sees someone walking strangely outside the house. She notices that it is her neighbor, but his way of walking seems very strange. She immediately realizes that it must be the entity. The entity starts knocking on the door. Jay tries to call her neighbor to warn him not to open the door. But before she can stop it, the entity breaks the window and enters the house. Jay runs to his house to save him. She knocks on the door, but no one opens it. So she also enters through the broken window. When she reaches near his room, she sees that the entity has taken the form of his mother. Jay shouts at it and warns it not to enter the room, but the entity does not listen and keeps knocking on the door. Jay keeps shouting to warn her neighbor not to open the door, but he opens it anyway. The entity immediately attacks him and kills him. Jay watches all of this with her own eyes and completely breaks down. She feels that her neighbor died because of her. He tried to save her life out of kindness, and in return, he got death. Jay is shattered by this shock. She drives far away from home. Now she is afraid that since her neighbor is dead, the entity will start following her again. Because of fear, she spends the entire night sleeping outside her house. In the morning, she drives to the beach. There she sees 3 boys enjoying themselves. For a moment, she thinks about passing the curse on to them. But then she realizes that doing something like that would be wrong. She returns home and locks herself in her room. She refuses to open the door even when someone calls her. Paul forces her to open the door and tries to talk to her. Jay tells him everything about how the neighbor died because of her and how she wants to escape this life. Paul becomes emotional hearing this and says that he will take the curse onto himself. But Jay refuses because she does not want to risk Paul's life. Instead, she decides that they will try to kill the entity and send it back to wherever it came from so that no one else becomes its victim. She makes a plan and goes to the school swimming pool with her friends and sister. Around the pool, Paul places many electrical devices so they can electrocute the entity. To attract it, Jay jumps into the swimming pool. After some time, the entity appears there in the form of a man. Since it is an entity, it can understand their plan. It begins throwing the electrical devices into the water. Paul shoots at it, but because he cannot see it clearly, his aim keeps missing. Then, Jay's sister gets an idea. She throws a sheet toward the floating device. The device was floating because the entity was holding it. When the sheet lands on the entity, they finally become able to see it. This time, Paul fires again, and the bullet hits the entity. It falls into the water. However, it turns out that the entity is not dead. It grabs Jay's leg and tries to pull her underwater. Jay screams loudly while trying to come out. Paul starts shooting toward the entity again to save her. Finally, the entity releases her leg, and Jay comes out of the pool. The pool water turns completely red, and they believe that the entity has finally died. Some days pass after this. Paul stays near Jay because she has become very frightened after everything that happened. It has been a long time, and Paul has not seen the entity yet. Since Paul had also gotten close to Jay, if the entity was still alive, it should have started following him instead. But nothing has happened yet. In the post-credit scene, we see Paul and Jay walking together. Behind them, we also see a shadow walking slowly. Seeing that shadow raises many questions at the end of the movie. Did the entity really die? Or is it still following them? And with this mystery, the movie comes to an end.